So we're going to be dealing with abstract expressionism, and this is a very difficult movement to deal with because there's a lot of ideas, sort of intellectual concepts behind it. It's not as easy as, well, throwing paint at a canvas. So in terms of definition, abstract expressionism was never really an ideal label for the movement, which of course grows out of New York in the 1940s and 50s. Why? Because Europe is in pieces. Europe has been decimated by World War II. You don't have a lot of artists coming out of Europe at this time because most of them are trying to survive. Now, post-war Europe, we saw some, but they were generally from England or otherwise sheltered from the war for various reasons. Now, it was somehow meant, abstract expressionism was meant to encompass not only the work of painters who filled their canvas with fields of color and abstract forms, but also those who attacked their canvases with gestural abstraction, the idea of sort of throwing your paint at the canvas, recording your movement. We'll get into that in a minute. Yet abstract expressionism has become the most accepted term for a group of artists who did hold quite a bit in common. All were committed to the expressive art of profound emotion and universal themes. And most were shaped by the legacy of surrealism, a movement that they translated into a new style, fitted to a post-war mood of anxiety and trauma. That sort of existential issue that we dealt with in post-war Europe is again popping up in America in the abstract expressionist movement. In their success, the New York painters robbed Paris of its mantle as a leader of modern art and set the stage for America's post-war dominance of the international art world. So we also see artists who will focus on the properties exclusive to their medium. For example, paint. What is paint? What does it do? Well, it flows and it dries and it records its position as it dries. You can have a sense of three-dimensionality or two-dimensionality from paint. I'm talking about typography. I'm talking about impasto, sort of the idea of creating texture with paint. Their pieces will be abstract and abstract in an attempt to express the artist's state of mind. Many of their works will be meant to be viewed by an outsider, not interpreted by an art historian, basically understood in any or no context. And there are two kinds of abstract expressionism, which I touched on briefly a moment ago. The first is gestural abstraction. This is Jackson Pollock. These are the paintings where at first it looks like you're throwing paint at a canvas. Now the term gestural painting, also known as gesturalism, is used to describe a method of fine art painting characterized by energetic, expressive brushstrokes, deliberately emphasizing the sweep of the painter's arm or movement of the hand. It's really, you can imagine it as capturing movement, capturing dance as much as anything else. In other words, the brushwork in these paintings expresses the artist's emotions and personality, just like a person's gestures reflect their feelings in everyday life. Now, they also emphasize the physical act of painting itself, drawing attention to the process of creating, because, of course, when you look at it, you can see those sweeps of the arms. You can't get away from that creation process. On the other side, and this will be the next section that we deal with, the next chapter, is chromatic abstraction or color field painting. And this is the opposite end of the pole. Here we're looking at artists such as Mark Rothko or Clifford Still. And this is a type of painting based on more pure and absolute attitudes of consciousness. Originally derived from symbolist modes, their art admits accident and unpremeditated effects only at the margins and seeks instead to create this style that stands above chance, something that is outside of time, something that is starkly simplified and stable. And through simplification, they're hoping to reach the universal. The idea being, if I can strip out everything cultural, everything that speaks to a specific type of person, then I can speak to every person. Well, hopefully anyway.